Before you spend a single dollar on a new camera this year, you need to see this, because whether your budget is $500 or $5,000, there's a mistake almost every buyer makes, and it's not just about the specs. In this video, I'm gonna walk you through the most important questions to ask, the biggest traps to avoid, and the exact cameras I'd recommend at every price point, from beginner to pro. If you're feeling overwhelmed by choices or getting pulled by all the hype, this guide will save you time, money, and a ton of regret. This video is not sponsored by any camera brand or anyone for that matter, but if you'd like to support the channel, using the affiliate links in the description means a lot and it helps keep these videos coming. I'm gonna include the prices of what these cameras go for brand new and also what they are on the used market, because let's be honest, a lot of us are not paying full retail because we'd rather get more bang for our buck. These are all of the cameras that I've either personally bought, rented, or used extensively. It's not every camera that I've ever touched, but it is a list that I recommend to anyone who's looking to get great results. If you want personalized help figuring out which camera is right for you, I did create a camera matchmaker course that will walk you through the entire camera choosing process based on your goals and budget. I'll leave a link to that course in the description. Now, if you're interested in one of these cameras that I talk about, but you haven't had a chance to use it yet, I've put together a free project file pack with footage and photos that I captured with each one of these cameras. This way you can download those files and test them out in your editing software. I've heard it said that sometimes the best camera that you have is the one that you have with you. And in this case, it's your smartphone. Most of us have a phone with very decent cameras on them. People forget how good their smartphone cameras are. They've got 4K video, solid dynamic range, cinematic modes, and more we see phones that are able to shoot in log as well, especially if you download third-party apps. If you're just getting started, don't overthink it. You can absolutely use your phone. I've said it before, gear matters, but only after you start creating and you get a little bit of experience. The one thing that matters a lot more than the camera itself is not only the story, but the content that you're producing. So use what you've got and upgrade when it makes sense. The next camera on my list is the Sony ZV-1F. It kind of came in and left without the hype, but vloggers are still using it a lot. Right now, I believe it's one of the best selling Sony cameras on Amazon. It's got a built-in 20mm lens that's nice and wide. It's perfect for holding at arm's length. You can't zoom or swap lenses with it, but it's a great camera if you're into vlogging or casual shooting. It does shoot in 4K and it uses the full sensor width, which gives you a clean, sharp image straight out of the camera, meaning you will get better image quality with the ZV-1F than you will with your smartphone, as long as you know how to use it and you know how to expose it correctly. Now, it doesn't shoot in RAW and its autofocus is contrast-based, so it's not gonna give you a pro-level tracking or post-production flexibility, but it's a great beginner's camera, and it has product showcase mode, which is great if you're filming something and you hold it in front of the camera like this, and you want it to focus on that thing that you put in front of the lens. It does have stabilization, but it's just decent at best. If you really want to get those smooth shots, then I would recommend picking up a gimbal. But for the price, if you're into vlogging, it's a great camera to start off with. The next camera we have up is the Sony ZV-E10. For the price, it punches way above its weight, especially if you're shooting video. Being able to swap out lenses is also a game changer because it opens up a whole new world to Sony E-mount options. And if you only use the kit lens on this camera, you're really not gonna get the most out of it. The camera's only as good as the lens that you throw on the end of it. So I always recommend picking up a used Sony ZV-E10 and maybe picking up a brand new camera lens or even a used lens, as long as it hasn't been too used. But the ZV-E10 has reliable eye autofocus. It's got a 24 megapixel APS-C sensor. You can flip the screen like this, which is great for vlogging, and it even handles live stream straight from the USB-C port. It does have a built-in mic, which is decent. All right, so this is the ZV-E10, and we're testing out the native audio inside of this camera. But as per usual, I would always recommend picking up an external mic to put on top of it. It does shoot in 4K 24 with no crop, which is great, but once you bump it up to 30 frames per second, the crop is pretty noticeable. Also, stabilization isn't that great either. It comes with active stabilization, and it does punch in about 1.5 if I can remember correctly. The battery life is okay. It's better than the ZV-1F, but it's not as good as something like the bigger cameras that we get, like the A7 III or A7S III. But my biggest gripe is the rolling shutter in 4K. If you're shooting something that's moving fast, you're gonna see a little bit of that jello effect. It's not perfect, but under 700 bucks brand new, it's a killer camera for someone who's doing photo and video. Definitely worth a look if you're just getting started. The Osmo Pocket 3 came out in October of 2023, and it sells for around $799 body only. I've tested it against the Insta360 X4, the Insta360 X5, both the ZV-E10 models, the iPhone 16 Pro, and a few other cameras, and I've made an entire course on this particular camera. So I've spent a lot of time with it, and I've come to understand not only how it works, but how its colors come out and how to set it up to get the most out of it. It's probably also the most reviewed camera on YouTube right now. And the reason is because it's great for its size and its image quality. It really delivers. It's built around this 3-axis gimbal head, so the footage is gonna look super smooth right out of the box, and there's no stabilization even needed in post-production. It shoots in 10-bit 4K up to 120 frames per second. For something that's this compact, the image quality really holds its own, even against more expensive cameras. It has a built-in 20mm lens, which is wide enough for vlogging, but I have heard people say that it's a little too wide. They'd rather get some nice medium shots. You can zoom, but it's a digital zoom, doesn't look that good. And it has things like active track and face tracking, so it's super user-friendly, especially if you're a solo creator. It charges crazy fast using the USB-C here on the bottom, and if you pick up the Osmo Pocket 3 Creator Combo Kit, it's gonna come with the DJI Mic 2, which is gonna help improve your audio, and it comes with an extra little battery attachment that you can put to the bottom, which will extend the amount of power that you get with this Pocket 3. Now, it's not perfect. This gimbal doesn't eliminate that up and down motion. There's no weather sealing, so if you get it a little bit wet, you're gonna be in trouble, and there's minimum controls. But if you're traveling or you're vlogging and you want a solid vlogging camera that fits in your pocket, then this will be the camera that delivers that pro level stuff, especially because it can shoot such a high image quality in 4K. Now, if you do decide to shoot in its highest image quality possible, I recommend that you do a little research and make sure your computer can handle that edit. That's why I like to give you the option to download my footage in case you want to test it out on your computer before you go out and buy it. The Sony ZV-E10 II dropped in mid-2024, and it runs about $999. And I think this one's going to be a classic for video first creators. I've compared it side by side from everything from the Fuji X-M5, the iPhone 16 Pro, and I even built a full 10-hour course all about it, how to use it, how to set it up, and how to get cinematic looking shots with it. It's a compact interchangeable lens camera that gives you serious flexibility. And since it's Sony E-mount, there's a huge lens ecosystem already built in. And if you're on a budget, the $100 kit lens will be pretty solid, but I always recommend you pick up a nicer lens, just like I said with the Sony ZV-E10. I was especially excited about the 10-bit color that came out of this camera. Sony did send me a test unit when it was first released, and I took it everywhere. I did vlogs with it, cinematic shots, I shot anamorphic with it, did some product shoots, and I even did wildlife shots. It held up really well in every scenario that I threw it at. The autofocus is super snappy, the image quality in low light is excellent thanks to its APS-C sensor, and I loved the fact that you can shoot in S-Cinetone and you can upload LUTs to it so you can monitor what that footage looks like instead of shooting in log and then going home and hoping that you exposed it correctly. It does do a little bit of a crop at 4K 60, especially with stabilization turned on, so you'll want to plan and frame out your shots accordingly depending on what lens you're using. But it does have a 120 frames per second slow-mo. You can shoot that in 1080, which was fun to use, but it wasn't as sharp as the 4K was. It can overheat in longer 4K shoots, especially in higher end codecs like XAVC S-I. That's why I like to take it a notch down. I still get great looking image quality, and for the price, it really delivers. It's one of the most capable cameras on the list, especially if you're a beginner or you're an intermediate creator looking to grow. If you've been thinking about jumping into 360 video, then this is the camera, the Insta360 X5. It's the most refined version they've put out so far as of the time of recording this video. It shoots in 8K resolution, 360 footage, 5.7K at 60 frames per second, and it has a newer, larger sensor that helps a lot with sharpness and the light, especially when you compare that to its older version, the X4. Now, with this newer version, you can finally swap out the lenses, which is a huge deal, because on older models, if you got one scratch on the camera glass, that was it. That means your camera's out of commission, or you have to replace it altogether. Now you just twist off the lens and you can swap it with the new one. Now, the downside is those extra lenses and replacement lenses do cost extra money, so you have to remember that when you're budgeting. The footage also looks great straight out of camera. I barely needed to color correct anything, which is rare with 360 cameras. Normally I have to do quite a bit of grading to get my image quality back to where I want it. If you're someone who likes to get those creative shots and being able to reframe your shots, which does take a little bit of extra post-production time, but the results usually can be really great. It also has an option called Pure Video Plus, which means you can shoot sometimes in low light hours and get really good looking footage. It's not as good as the Osmo Pocket 3, like I did a night only comparison a while back, but it is still very good. As all of these cameras are, it's not a perfect camera, but it does do the usual when it comes to 360 footage. And I highly recommend this if you are a 360 shooter. The Fuji X-M5 came out in November of 2024, and it sells for $799 US, and that's body only. And if you want to pick up the lens, it's going to be an extra $100, which is what I would recommend if you're just starting out. But if you do have extra budget, it's always better to set some aside to pick up better glass. It's an interchangeable lens camera like the Sony ZV-E10 II. The only difference is it's X mount instead of Sony E mount, which also really opens you up to some really creative lens options, especially if you're into that classic film look. Now, there's not as many lens options as there are with Sony E mount, but there are still plenty of X mount lenses out there. I've put this thing head to head with the ZV-E10 II, the Osmo Pocket 3, the iPhone 16 Pro, and the Google Pixel 9 Pro, and the color science, it really always outdoes the rest of them. These cameras have a warm, rich, and soft way that reminds me of old film stock. Skin tones look pretty good, and they do have built-in film simulations, which is nice because then you don't have to go and do a lot of post-production work if you want some great looking shots in camera. If you don't shoot with Fuji, or you've never used a Fuji camera, but you like the way the film simulations look, I made LUTs for every single camera that I own. The iPhone 15 Pro, the 16 Pro, the Sony cameras that I own, the Osmo Pocket 3, and pretty much every camera that's on this list. I'll leave a link to all of those LUT packs in the description. Now, it does not have an EVF, which is a little bit of a letdown, but it does have a flip screen, which is fully articulating, and it's bright and easy to use. The autofocus joystick is also nice to have. This way you can focus point and quickly find out what you want to shoot on your display. And it's got a bunch of little perks like that. It's a tiny camera, but don't let its size fool you. The image quality is great, especially if you're shooting in low light. I've pushed it up to ISO 1600 without noticing too much noise. You can even shoot in 6.2K open gate, which is really nice if you're into vertical shooting. For video, it gives you 4K up to 60 frames per second, and you can even externally record in Blackmagic RAW. The only thing that I would watch out for with this camera is its digital stabilization. It's not the best in the world. You'll get smoother results with a stabilized lens or a gimbal, but overall the X-M5 is compact, it's creative, and it feels like it was made for people who just love to shoot, and I think it's a great beginner's camera if you're into photography or video. The Canon R50 V was released in April of 2025, and it sells for $849 with its kit lens. And this is a pretty nice camera. It's got interchangeable lens options like that, so you can change out the lenses. There's not gonna be very many lens options with Canon cameras, so you're gonna have to keep that in mind, especially not like Sony cameras or the Fuji cameras. But I have tested this camera alongside the ZV-E10 II, and the results were a lot closer than I expected. The Canon still has a distinct color profile, one that makes it kind of famous, especially for wedding videographers. The skin tones look a little bit more natural, a little bit more saturated, but a little bit more natural than I get with the Sony, especially in different lighting situations. And the image leans more contrast heavy than Sony's lifted midtones. But I did notice that once you turn on 4K 60, with this particular camera, it really crops in. It almost makes it unusable if you're using anything other than a wide lens. So I almost had to turn stabilization off for a lot of shots, and I would prefer to just throw this up on a gimbal if I was looking to get that smooth shot. Autofocus is super fast. It almost reminded me of a Sony camera, at least with the kit lens that I was using. Rolling shutter looks a little bit smoother, and the kit lens flare is actually kind of beautiful. The kit lens on this camera is a lot better than the kit lens that you get with the Sony, in my opinion. Now, one huge perk with Canon cameras, and probably one of the biggest reasons I would recommend this to a beginner, is its menu system. It's really easy to navigate. It's way easier for beginners than Sony's or Fuji's menu system. The battery life isn't quite as strong as something that you get with the ZV-E10 II, but if you're working with the sub $1,000 budget, and depending on when you're watching this video, I'm sure you're gonna see R50 Vs selling for around $400 to $500 in the future. And then if you pick up a brand new Sigma 18 to 50mm f2.8 lens, that would be a solid setup. So for beginners or anyone who's looking to jump into the world of interchangeable lens video without spending a fortune, this camera makes a lot of sense. The Sony a7 III might not be the newest out of all of these cameras, but even in 2025, it still holds up incredibly well. Everything from interviews to travel shots, and it rarely let me down. You get a beautiful image quality out of it. It's excellent in low light, and it has great dynamic range, and it's still competitive with other cameras twice its price today. It's not flashy, it's a little bit bigger, but it is very reliable, and that's what makes it so great. You get a dual SD card slot for backup or overflow recording, which is super nice. It's got fast and accurate autofocus and the ability to shoot solid 4K video and high resolution stills with ease. Now, it can only shoot up to 30 frames per second in 4K, but still, if you want to shoot in 60 frames per second, you can shoot in 1080 and then upscale that to 4K in post-production. The best part about this particular camera is you can find it well under $1,000. Sometimes I've even seen it on eBay for $600, which makes it, in my opinion, one of the best value hybrid cameras on the market in 2025. If you're looking for a proven versatile workhorse that still delivers today, then the A7 III is 100% worth considering. Right now, the FX30 that I own is set up on an overhead configuration. In fact, that's pretty much how I use the FX30, because sometimes when I'm doing a long day's worth of overhead shots, that fan needs to kick on and I don't need it overheating on me. You can shoot in 4K up to 120 frames per second. You get rich cinematic colors straight out of camera with its S Cinetone picture profile. And it's got pro features like dual card slot, it's got that internal fan like I mentioned, and it's got 5 mounting points. This is before you even add a cage to it, which I do recommend you add a cage to it. That'll just protect it in case you drop it. It's got that 26 megapixel APS-C sensor, and the results are crazy good, especially with its dynamic range. It does have real-time eye autofocus, it's super sticky, and I've shot anamorphic with it, and its handheld footage looks absolutely great in my opinion. Because this camera was made for filmmaking and it's a video first camera, everything is covered from long takes to being able to rig it out. The Sony a6700 is a power horse, and it's one of my favorite cameras in this entire lineup. If you're someone who needs a true hybrid camera that can knock out crisp stills and keep it sharp, and then also in the same breath be able to get some really good looking cinematic video without compromise, this is the camera that delivers. It shares that same 26 megapixel sensor we saw in the FX30 and the ZV-E10 II, but what sets it apart is the fact that it has an electronic viewfinder, which is huge for those of you who like to do hybrid shooting, photo and video. The electronic viewfinder is super nice when you're in super bright environments, or if you're doing some type of macro shooting, or you want to make sure that your focus is locked on. It oversamples its 6K footage, which gives you really incredible 4K footage, and it has that S Cinetone picture profile, like I mentioned we get with the FX30. Autofocus is crazy fast, just like with the FX30 and the ZV-E10 II. It does have an AI-powered subject tracking software inside of it, and it has that fully articulating display. You can shoot in 4K up to 120 frames per second, which opens up a lot of creative options. But if you are shooting in its highest image quality, you can overheat this thing in about 20 minutes. So I always take it a notch down, and I've never had a problem in real world scenarios with it. I found that switching to 420 10-bit helps mitigate that overheating issue. Stabilization is solid for handheld photos thanks to its 5-axis system, but if you're walking or moving a lot during video, definitely grab a gimbal. Overall, it's a killer camera for anyone who's doing weddings or events or something like YouTube. Anything that needs pro-level video and clean photography in one compact and well-priced package. Now, if you're the kind of creator who wants a camera that feels as good as it shoots, then the Fuji X-T5 might just be your match. It's got a 40 megapixel sensor, it has dual card slots, and some of the best color science out there, especially if you're into Fuji's iconic film simulations like Provia, Eterna, and Classic Chrome. Just like the Fuji X-M5 that we talked about already. Even though it came out in late 2022, it still holds up in 2025 for both video and photography. The X-T5 doesn't try to be everything for everyone. It leans more into an intentional shooting type of style, and I would say it's almost a photo-first camera. It does not shoot in 4K 120 like the Sony a6700, but it does give you oversampled 6K footage at 30 frames per second, which is great for dynamic range. The Fuji menu system does take a bit to learn, but once you lock that in, you can customize it to your liking. You don't get internal LUT support or headphone jack without an adapter, but what you do get is a tactile, hands-on experience that's really hard to match, especially if you're someone who enjoys the process as much as the final result. If you're on a budget, it's not the cheapest APS-C option out there, but for those who want that filmic look and that camera that makes you want to go out and shoot, then I highly recommend the Fuji X-T5. The Sony ZV-E1 is one of the most exciting cameras that I've tested in recent years, and I've actually even just purchased one personally for all of my behind the scenes shooting and also all of my product shots for my camera reviews. I used to rely on the Sony a7 III, but after switching to the ZV-E1, the difference in not only its portability size and the fact that it has dynamic active stabilization alone really made it worth it. It's compact, it's lightweight, and it delivers a full frame image quality, which has Sony's outstanding autofocus system. Now, it only has a 12 megapixel sensor, which means it's not going to be the best image quality if you go to shoot any type of photography, but it really is a video first camera. It really excels in low light with ISO ranges that climb up to 409,600 if I can remember correctly. I've gotten shots in tough lighting situations that still look very clean. It's got that 10-bit 422 internal recording and S-Cinetone color profile, which gives you a lot of creative flexibility without needing to do a bunch of color grading in post-production. I'm a fan of being able to shoot most in camera and going into post and tweaking a little bit, rather than shooting purely in log and then having to go do a ton of color grading in post. But that's just my workflow and for how I produce content. If you're into slow motion, it does record 4K up to 120 frames per second, which gives your footage that buttery cinematic feel. If you're mostly focused on video creation and you want that image quality, something that looks like the A7S III, like I'm shooting this video on right now, but in a smaller, more compact body, then the ZV-E1 is the best full frame option out there in my opinion. The Sony A7S III is a video workhorse. It's been my go-to for nearly all of these YouTube video headshots that you've seen over the past couple of years. It's built like a tank, it feels incredibly premium, and it gives you those really nice cinematic results right out of the box. It only has a 12.1 megapixel, just like the ZV-E1, so it's not ideal for photography, but it does have an EVF in case you want to use your EVF for photography or for video. Just like the ZV-E1, you can shoot in 4K up to 120 frames per second, and there are no recording limits, which is huge for longer shoots. The biggest difference between the A7S III and the ZV-E1 is the fact that this particular camera right here will not overheat on me. I've never had it overheat on me, and I've done video shoots sometimes ranging longer than an hour. Now, stabilization isn't its strong suit, so that's another difference between this particular camera and the ZV-E1. This would be my camera if I was gonna be up on sticks or a tripod. The ZV-E1 would be my camera if I was moving around and about. If I was stuck on an island and I could only bring two cameras, it would be the Sony A7S III and the Sony ZV-E1. No questions asked, along with some good lenses. One is a full frame video beast and the other is small and stable, perfect for moving B-roll shots. And not to mention the Sony ZV-E1 and the Sony A7S III open you up to a ton of E-mount lens options. So that's the lineup. I've personally used every single one of these cameras that I've mentioned today, and these are the ones that I would actually recommend to you depending on where you are with your budget. So whether you're brand new to content creation or you're looking for your next serious upgrade, hopefully this gives you a better sense of where to put your money. If you want to see how any of these cameras perform, I've got the footage linked in the description. Go ahead and download that and you can test it out in your editors. And if you're still stuck between which one of these cameras you should pick and you're confused, then I would recommend taking my camera Matchmaker course. I'll leave it in the description. Thanks so much for taking the time to watch this video with me. I'll leave a commercial to that course right after this. I'll see you in the next video. One of the most asked questions I receive is which camera should I buy? I know that you want to make the right decision and it is a big decision. You want to find the camera that best suits your needs and stays within your budget. Many of you know which camera might be good for you, but you need some guidance pinpointing it and feeling confident in your decision. That's why I made this course. I want to put my camera experience and knowledge into a compact and easy to follow format. This course is jam-packed with camera buying fundamentals that I guarantee you will carry with you through the rest of your camera journey. I base this course on all the things that I wish I had known or someone had told me when I first started out. From understanding different camera types and their features to matching them with your specific needs, this course covers it all. After finishing, I'm confident that you're gonna have clarity over every angle and aspect that you must consider when you're shopping for a camera. I'll guide you through my entire process, taking you 90% of the way there. This way you'll be well prepared to make your decision. This is essentially all the guidance that I would give my own brother if he asked, "Hey Joe, which camera should I buy?" Now I'm sharing that insight with you. I'll see you in the first module.